Welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Sam Menzie, and we've got a show for you today. First topics we'll be going over is all my trade deadline grades. We'll be separating that into the East Division, Central Division, and the West Division. After that, we'll be going over my post-deadline playoff predictions for all the 6 seeds, then who goes to the World Series, all that kind of stuff. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers to ensure that your question does get read on the air. Please do the link, GSMCpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so as I said, our first topics are going to be about my trade deadline grades. We separate that into 3 segments, and the first one we'll be doing is the East Division. So we'll be going over that, and we're going to start off with the AL East, and let's get into it. So, starting off with the New York Yankees here, I have the Yankees as a B- grade for the trade deadline. Their moves are obviously highlighted by the acquisition of star Marlins player Jazz Chisholm. Also got some nice reinforcements to the bullpen in Mark Leiter Jr. and Enyel De Los Santos. Also shipped out Caleb Ferguson, a weapon arm who became excess goods once they did acquire Leiter and De Los Santos. I gave them a B- because I like the moves they did. I think Jazz is a really good player who is going to absolutely thrive in New York. I think Leiter is a very good controllable reliever, but I wish they would have done more, and I also think that the Jazz fit is a little bit questionable. You obviously have a second baseman already in Gleyber Torres, who said he's not moving over to third, and so that's a little weird. And as much as Jazz has played third now, at least a few games now with the Yankees, and he has done pretty well over there defensively, I don't really know if he's going to continue with that. I just don't know how, if he is a major league third baseman defensively. I mean, it's called the hot corner for a reason. And also, I think they should have tried to add a starting pitcher. I understand they were close to acquiring Jack Flaherty, but had to back out because of medicals. That's not really their fault, but I think another starter would have done. Trying to flip Nestor as well. I think that was something important, especially with the injury risk to Garrett Cole. Also, I think they need another infielder. I don't like you guys having, I don't like the infield you have right now. I mean, obviously, Ben Rice at first is fine. Volpe at short, you're not going to move off him. But second and third, you're either going to have Jazz somewhere, and then you're either going to have DJ LeMahieu, Oswaldo Cabrera, or Gleyber Torres there, which I don't really know if those are major league players at this point. Obviously, you couldn't really move off DJ, but he'd be fine in a bench role, but you didn't put him there because you didn't acquire another infielder. And Gleyber just not having a good season, and I think it was time to move on from him at the deadline as well. So overall, I like the moves the Yankees did make, but I think they should have done more, and I think the main acquisition they got, Jazz Chisholm, who I do like a lot, I just think the fit is a little weird, but still, good trade outline for them. Maybe I'm being a little harsh, but that's just my opinion. After that, we have the Orioles, who I'm giving a B. Acquired 2 controllable starting pitchers in Zach Eflin and Trevor Rogers, who are both pretty good. Both, again, under control for next year, and Rogers also 26. So you're not just hoping this year, but next year as well. You really add a lot of depth to that rotation. You now have Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, Cade Povich, Zach Eflin, and Trevor Rogers really as your top 5, which I think is pretty good. You had a lot of pitching injuries, mainly to Kyle Bradish, so you had to add starting pitchers, and that's what you did here. Bullpen, you also added Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto, who are fine guys from the Phillies, but at the same time, I think you needed a better high-leverage guy. Craig Kimbrell has struggled a little bit, and I think you would have been right to kind of try to acquire a closing pitcher. I think maybe acquiring Carlos Estevez would have been a good idea. And also, because of the steep price you paid for Trevor Rogers, I do have to give you guys a B. But overall, I love the Zach Eflin move. Actually, I think that's one of the better moves any team made whatsoever. And I didn't think the price was bad as well. So they still have a fantastic team, and right now look like the World Series favorites. And deadline did nothing to change that. Red Sox, I also have as a B. They didn't need to do that much. They needed to kind of go all in, but not all in, if you know what I mean. They needed to go try to win this year, but not trade significant prospects, which they did not do. Traded for Danny Jansen, which gives them the right-handed bat they desperately needed. As much as the fit is a little weird because they do have an all-star caliber catcher in Connor Wong. Wong can move around the infield as well, so it's kind of okay. So I like the Danny Jansen move. I like the Luis Garcia trade. You give up a lot for him, but he's a good, solid reliever. Lucas Sims is also solid as well. And James Paxton also adds some well-needed depth to your rotation. And Quinn Priester could be a good bet for the future. So I like what the Red Sox did here. B. The Rays, one of the most active teams at the trade deadline, trading a ton of players here, trading Zach Eflin, trading Jason Adam, trading Radio Rosarena, Isaac Paredes, a bunch of all-stars there. And I really like what they did, like most people. I'm giving them a B+. I think it was right to move on from some of these guys like Randy, like Eflin, like Jason Adam. I love the prospects you got back for Jason Adam. I also think you did pretty well in that Randy Rosarena trade. But I think the main thing that comes here with the reason I'm not giving them an A is the Isaac Paredes trade. I know a lot of people like it, but I'm just not huge on Chris Morel in his future. And I think trading one of the better third basemen in baseball over the past few years for Morel and then a reliever is just kind of eh. So I didn't love that package, but at the same time, I don't really doubt the Rays anymore. So yeah, B+. I think if they would have gotten another top prospect in that Cubs trade, it would have probably gone to an A or even an A+. But I think the Paredes package is the reason why I did put them down a little bit. Finally, finishing off the AL East here, we have the Toronto Blue Jays, one of the more active sellers as well on this. I'm giving them a B. I love the packages they got back. I like what they got back for Yimi Garcia. Jonathan Clase is a really good get. Joey Loperfido and Jake Bloss and Will Wagner is a fantastic, incredible just fleece of the Astros there. I understand pitching prices were high, but wow, that's an incredible package there. So I really like what the trades they did. Just to me, I don't understand the thought process of not shopping Chris Bassett or Kevin Gausman. I mean, you saw what you got back for Kikuchi. Imagine a better Kikuchi who also has a year of control left in Chris Bassett. Bassett's not getting any younger. He's not really a big part of your future. To me, it just makes zero to no sense at all to not even shop Chris Bassett. I understand you want to be competitive this year, but he has 1 year left. He's getting older, and you saw how insane the pitching prices were. I mean, you're getting back maybe your first baseman for the next 10 years in Joey Loperfido, a really good starting pitcher in Jake Bloss, and a really nice third baseman in Will Wagner. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to not even shop Chris Bassett as well as Kevin Gausman. So that's why I'm not giving them a higher grade than a B, but I like the moves they did. I just think they should have sold a little bit more. The Mets, I'm giving them a B+. The Mets didn't need to go all in. I think we're kind of in the same place as the Red Sox, a team that is fighting for a wild card spot and are exceeding expectations this year. I would say the Mets are better than the Red Sox, though. I thought the Huascar Brazoban trade was one of the better trades of the entire deadline. A controllable reliever who's as good as he is, giving up a pretty no-name prospect, I thought was fantastic. I like the Paul Blackburn get. I like the Jesse Winker get. I like what you added to the bullpen as well in Phil Maton and Ryan Stanek. So I really like what the Mets did. They added some good pieces, didn't give up anyone significant, but are also still trying to go with the all-in mentality. But at the same time, I would have liked them to add a bigger starting pitcher, but they just were never going to do that with where the prospect prices were, which is why I give them a B+ and not a higher grade. Next, we have the Atlanta Braves, who I am giving the first non-B grade of this entire East portion. I'm giving them a C-. I'm not a fan of what the Braves did at the deadline. I think Soler is a really good hitter and is a great player, but I think the fit is very awkward. You already have a great DH with Marcell Ozuna. I'm just not sure how much I want Jorge Soler to be playing defense every single day. You're never going to have Ozuna play defense, so Soler is not playing left or right field for you every single day. You didn't add a starting pitcher, which I think you desperately needed to, with Chris Sale and Randall Lopez going very high up in the innings margin. I think both are kind of taking time bombs to their arms. You've already seen an injury with Max Fried, so I really think you need to add a starting pitcher. I think the Soler fit is a little bit weird, so that's why I do give them a C- here. Marlins, A+. The Marlins did what I thought a lot of other teams should do, Blue Jays and Giants, sold off hard. They are fully into a rebuild, sold off every single player they could, most basically, took advantage of this seller's market, and got back insane prospect packages that will really help out this team in the future. I mean, Connor Norby, Kyle Stowers could be starters on this team for the next 5+ years. Robbie Snelling could be a starting pitcher on this team in the next 2 to 3 years. Adam Mazur, same thing. The fact you were able to do all this, get the prospects you got back, was absolutely fantastic. They didn't go half in with it. They went all the way in, saying, you know what, we're not good enough to win in the near future. We're going into a full-out rebuild. I love they did that. I love what they did. An A+. I'm sure everyone is going to be high in their trade deadline, and I am one of those people. A+ grade for Miami. Fantastic job by Peter Bendix. He has a clear vision, and he stuck to it at this deadline. Phillies, I have a C+. I like the moves they made. Carlos Estevez is a very good closer who will really help out their bullpen, of course. I think the price was really high, though, giving up the prospects that you did. I think borderline top 100 guys. And then only adding Austin Hayes to your outfield seems like a loss. There were a lot of good outfield bats in the market available, and I don't really think Austin Hayes was the best possible person to add here. I think he was a little bit of a cop-out to kind of get him. I think you should have gone someone better. But is what it is. Still, I like the moves they made. I just think you could have upgraded on Hayes. I think the prospect package for Estevez was a little high and could have done a little bit more as well. So I do give the Phillies a C+ here. Nationals, I have as a B. Nationals sold off some people, including Lane Thomas. Got some really nice packages back and prospect-wise, and I like what they did. I don't know if I would have sold off Lane Thomas. Actually, no, I would have sold off Lane Thomas. I'm changing my mind on the spot here. But yeah, I like the prospect packages they got back for Dylan Floro, for Jesse Winker, for Lane Thomas, guys that could really help out in the near future for this Nationals team. Have a very good future, and I don't think they'll be selling after this year anytime soon. Have a really, really dangerous core, and as a Mets fan, I am very nervous about that. So do give them a B here. So going back over the grades for the East, I give the Yankees a B minus, the Orioles a B, Red Sox a B, Rays a B plus, Blue Jays a B, Mets a B plus, Braves a C minus, Marlins an A plus, Phillies a C plus, and Nationals a B. A lot of B's here, but it's kind of how it is. We're moving into our second segment now, which is going to be talking about the Central Division and their trade deadline grades there. So yeah, we'll be doing that, and we'll be seeing you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment here, which is going to be talking about some Central Division trade deadline grades. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you to please like and follow the show. Once again, we do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. Really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so you just saw what I did in the first segment there, going over some East Division trade deadline grades for every team. I'll be doing that now with the Central Division. So AL Central and NL Central, of course. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the AL Central. So starting off with the White Sox here, I'm giving the White Sox a C. For a trade deadline that we expected to be one of the most active we've ever seen, it really was very mellow. But I don't really think that was the White Sox fault. They were planning on trading Luis Robert. Two of the main suitors in the Mariners and the Phillies pivoted to different outfield options before the White Sox even had a chance to fully shop Robert. That wasn't really their fault there. Garrett Crochet made an insane demand, not an insane demand, I should say in my opinion, an insane demand to teams. I'm always pro player, and he wasn't ever going to get moved. So I think a lot of that was out of the White Sox control, but I think what you can penalize them for is maybe a weak return in the Eric Fetty trade. Getting Miguel Vargas and then the other two prospects you got back as well for him, Tommy Pham and Michael Kopech. I personally think it was okay. I think they could have done better, but I personally do like Miguel Vargas a lot. I think he'll be a really good hitter in the major leagues. Does need to find a position, but after that I think he'll be good. But I do think he could have done a little bit better as well. And also, again, not trading Robert and Crochet is kind of a loss, but it also wasn't really your fault. So what can you really do? Tanner Banks traded him, of course, got an okay prospect back from the Phillies. So again, a lot of this wasn't the White Sox fault. That's why I do have to give them a C here. Anthony in the chat asked, what did you grade the Marlins knowing they're going into a rebuild mode? I did that just a few minutes ago. If you want to scroll back in the live and see my full reasoning, you can do that. But I gave them an A+. Love what they did at the deadline. Love the prospects they got back. Love that they fully committed to selling off. And yeah, loved it. Next we have here the Cleveland Guardians, who I'm giving a B. I like the moves they made a lot. I think Lane Thomas is a fantastic addition to the lineup. I think that he adds a lot in the corner outfield spot, being a good defender, hitting well, can really add up to that top three. I mean, you'll now have, a top five of Stephen Kwan, Lane Thomas. You then have Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez, some of your other good prospects as well. They're filling in. So I really like what the Guardians did there. Alex Cobb addition was also really nice, but I think they should have done a little bit more, and I think you should have gone a more for sure pitcher, because Cobb is coming off injury, has not pitched at all this year. I like him a lot when he's healthy, he just hasn't been healthy, and for this Guardians team that desperately needed starting pitching, just acquiring Alex Cobb seems like a little bit of a loss to me, but I like the Lane Thomas move a lot, and I do like Cobb addition. It's just I think I would have gone one more starting pitcher. That was maybe a for sure addition, for a for sure guy that can just eat some innings. I think maybe getting Frankie Montas, getting him to stay in the state of Ohio, getting him from the Reds would have been a good addition, but hey, it's what it is. So B, like the moves they made, I just think they should have done a little bit more. Next, we have the Detroit Tigers, who I gave a C. Really didn't sell off many people, sold off Mark Canha and Andrew Chafin for kind of middling returns. They were never going to trade Skubal, as they shouldn't, and that was kind of it. They, of course, traded Flaherty, who I'm forgetting, obviously, but Flaherty, I think that, it was what they got a little bit of an underwhelming prospect package back for him, but at the same time, it wasn't really their fault. Flaherty has some back issues, which caused the Yankees to back out of it, and I'm sure lowered the Dodgers' prospect cost for him, so it's not really their fault. So kind of just an deadline for them. I would have maybe liked to see them acquire a prospect that's closer to the major leagues in the Flaherty trade, to help out that lineup immediately, as the prospect they got back, the power hitting catcher, will probably not be up till 2026 or so. But hey, I think a lot of it wasn't their fault, so Tigers I give a C. Next, we have the Kansas City Royals, whose deadline I really, really liked. I am giving a B. I think that the Royals did a fantastic job here with this deadline. They needed bullpen help. They went out and got it. Hunter Harvey was a really nice addition. Lucas Erceg is a fantastic addition. Paul DeJong will really help out in the second base spot, which, of course, they have had a lot of trouble with. I think Adam Frazier has a 60 weighted runs created plus, which is kind of insane. So I love the moves they did to the bullpen. They really needed to help it out, and that's what they did. I think maybe could have added a more legit closer. I'm not sure if you're going to have Erceg closing games or someone else. But, I think that's one thing they should have done. And also, I think they should have worked on the lineup a little bit more. Getting an outfielder to help out that lineup, I think, should have been a top priority. So that's why I do give them a B. Again, like a lot of teams here, I like what they did, but I think they should have done more. I love the Erceg addition. I really think he's going to be a fantastic addition to this pen for a long time coming. Just again, I like what they did. I think they should have done more, and that's really kind of it. Next, we have the Minnesota Twins, who I'm giving the most negative grade of this by far, a D. I understand they had financial constraints, but you got to get creative in this. You have a fantastic team, and the only thing you add to yourself is Trevor Richards. Richards is an okay bullpen arm, don't get me wrong, love with pitching depth, but man, that's all you do. You can't acquire maybe another bullpen arm, maybe a bat, a starting pitcher, like nothing, really. I understand you had financial things, but you got to get creative at this time of the year. Man, I really didn't like what they did. I think they have a fantastic team, and only adding Trevor Richards to it makes me really sad, and I give them a D here. Next, we're moving into the NL Central. Cardinals, I give a flat-out A. I love what the Cardinals did. They needed a controllable, great starting pitcher, and that's what they get here in Eric Fetty. They also get Tommy Pham, a guy who's able to play the corner outfield and crushes lefties, which is something they have needed for this entire season. They didn't even give up a top prospect as well, only giving up Tommy Edman, who, while he is a very good player, they have the hitting depth to be able to combat a loss like that. He also hasn't played this entire year. Getting Eric Fetty and Tommy Pham for just Tommy Edman is a fantastic ad for this Cardinals team. I absolutely love that trade, and that trade alone for me is enough to give them a flat-out A. Absolutely love what they did, and in this market with how insane the starting pitcher prices were, getting Eric Fetty for what you did was just such a great job by them. Fantastic. I love what they did. Flat out A. Next, we have the Chicago Cubs, who I'm giving an A-. They acquired probably the best available player on this market, which is Isaac Paredes, one of the better third basemen in all of baseball, giving him up for only Christopher Morel and a reliever in Hunter Bigby. I'm not exactly the highest on Morel, if I said a few times now in this show. So I love what they did here with that. I think it was a fantastic job by Chicago to be able to get Paredes. His fit is a little weird in Wrigley, I won't lie, but I think he's a fantastic player, and they play games on the road as well. So being able to get that superstar player that the Cubs were looking for this entire time was a great job. I like the return as well from Mark Leiter Jr. So, yeah, I'm happy they didn't trade Jameson Taillon as well. I think that would have been a not great decision unless they would have gotten some really great prospects back. I don't think you had to. It wasn't a situation where you had to trade them. You had them for 2 years under control after this, so didn't really need to. So, yeah, I love what the Cubs did. A-. Next, we have the Cincinnati Reds, who I'm giving a C+. the Reds did what they needed to do. They sold off their rentals, looking towards next year. Would get a regular C, but I like what they got for Frankie Montas back. I think getting Joey Wiemer is a really good ad for Frankie Montas, for a guy who hasn't done as great as he has. So I like what they did there. But again, Reds just showed off their rentals. That's all they needed to do. Look towards next year, where I think they're going to be a really, really good team. So that's kind of it. C+. They get the plus for adding Joey Wiemer. Brewers next. We have a B-. They were the team that acquired Frankie Montas. I think he's a fine addition, but I think they need to do more. And after that, they really didn't do much. They didn't really add the lefty outfielder that they needed to with the Christian Yelich injury as well. So I think that they didn't do enough really here. That's kind of it. Frankie Montas, again, fine innings-eating pitcher. Nick Mears, okay reliever, but you needed to add an outfielder, I think, and I think there were better options than Frankie Montas. But also I get it because of how ludicrous the pitching prices were. I get trying to go for Montas instead. So I do have the Brewers here at a B-. Finally, we end off with the Pittsburgh Pirates, who get a C+. The Pirates needed to add bats, and that's what they got here. They got Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who I think is a really nice addition to the infield and can also play all around, so you can kind of shift him as young players come up and you see who sticks and who doesn't. Brian De La Cruz is a really nice addition in the outfield, who I think will play better when it comes to playoff time. So they needed to add bats. That's what they did, but I think they could have done a little better with the bats they added. I think you could have gone, a little. I think you could have done. You could have gotten a better bat, is what I'm trying to say. You could have gotten a bigger guy. I think Brent Rooker would have been a fantastic fit for you. I understand Oakland didn't really want to trade him, but you have prospects. I think you should have made them an offer they couldn't. Couldn't refuse. So I think the time is now to compete for the Pirates. They know that. I like the moves they made, getting Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Brian De La Cruz. But again, I think they should have done more, a lot like these other teams. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to make the playoffs. And I like the moves they made here. So going over the Central Trade Deadline grades just one more time. White Sox get a C. Guardians get a B. Tigers C. Royals B. Tigers, Twins D. Cardinals A. Cubs A-, Reds C+, Brewers B-, and the Pirates C+. So that is it for our second segment here, going over some Central Division trade deadline grades. We're going into our third segment here, which is going to be talking about some West trade deadline grades. Same thing we just did for the first two segments. So we'll be going over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment, which is going to be talking about some West Division trade deadline grades. Just did this for the first two segments as well, so I think you know how it's going now. But before we do that, though, I'd like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link, gsmcpodcast.net. Really does love the show, and it really does mean a lot. Thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right. So, going into our third segment here, which is going to be talking about the West Division, all the teams in there, NL and AL West, and their trade deadline grades. So, let's get into it. First off, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks, who I am giving a B+. I really like the moves they made. I think A.J. Puck and Dylan Floro are really, really solid additions to the back end of that bullpen. I think both guys are really going to help out a lot with what has been a little bit of a shaky bullpen for this season. And yeah, I think Puck will really help out in that 7th, 8th inning. And Flora is a nice mid-reliever with playoff experience as well. Also, adding Josh Bell I thought was a really nice get. You, of course, don't know how long Christian Walker is going to be on the IL, so being able to add in Josh Bell as an insurance policy, also a guy who can come off the bench in late-game situations when Walker does come back, I think is really good. Also can afford DH against lefties if you need him to, and righties as well, but obviously Jock Peterson has that job down. So overall, I like what the Diamondbacks did. It didn't really need to add a pitcher. You've got Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Jordan Montgomery, all those guys getting healthier soon. Zach Allen as well, but he's been back for a little bit. So give the Diamondbacks a B+. Liked it a lot. Rockies, F. Why? Why do you do this to your fans? I don't understand. Why would the Rockies do this? You trade people. Trade Kyle Quantrill. Trade Elias Diaz. Why are you not trading a 34-year-old catcher on an expiring contract? It makes no sense to me. Why are you not trading Kyle Quantrill after his breakout year? Why are you not even listening to offers on Ryan McMahon? The Rockies make no sense. F. Trade people. That's what you're supposed to do when you stink. You guys stink. Trade people on expiring contracts. It's really easy. Whatever. Sorry. Dodgers. A. Obvious. They were able to get a starting MLB shortstop and Tommy Pham, which is something they've needed for about 2 years now. Jack Flaherty is the ace-like pitcher they have needed. Fantastic addition there. Also didn't give up that much prospects. Of course, that is because of the injury risk, but I'm sure the Dodgers can take it. Also, after that, you added Ahmed Rosario, who is going to, and Kevin Kiermaier. Both are going to be really nice. Ahmed, first of all, is going to be a really nice addition off the bench. Of course, his experience with the Dodgers was traded there last year at the deadline as well, so knows what he's doing there. Kevin Kiermaier is a really nice veteran center fielder to add in. You have not had a real center fielder since Mookie Betts has been out, so I think adding in a center fielder there to help out the defense is a really nice addition. And, if anyone deserves a ring right now in baseball, one of those players is Kevin Kiermaier. So get him in some real playoff situations, please, for baseball fans. That would be nice. Next, we have the San Diego Padres, who I'm giving a C-. Yes, they made a lot of moves, but I don't have to like them. I think the Tanner Scott move was kind of a panic move. One thing I'd asked yesterday, and I'll continue to ask, is why, if you give that prospect for an elite closer, why would you not give it up for a really good starter? You're telling me if you gave that to the Tigers, they would say no? I don't really think that's true. Even Kikuchi, who I don't think is that great, I think is a good pitcher. So you needed starting pitching, and I understand what you're trying to do. Because you don't have the starting pitching, you're trying to build the gap, bridge the gap, building a super pen. But I think you should have gotten a starting pitcher. I think that's an L on that part, and I think, again, they did a good moves, but I just don't really like them. They did a lot of moves, I just don't really like them. I think, again, if you were offering that package for Tanner Scott, it should have gotten a starting pitcher. That's just me. Finally, in the NL West, we have the San Francisco Giants, who I gave an F. Second F for this video. I had an entire rant yesterday about the San Francisco Giants and their trade deadline. I had some problems with my computer, so I'm going to be uploading those pretty soon after this, so you can check it out there. But also, if you want to watch it, it's from yesterday's live stream as well. So if you just go to the end, you'll see it. I gave them an F. I hated what they did. To sum it up quickly, they should have gone all in on selling or buying. They went half and half with either, which I think is stupid, especially in a market like this. I don't like what they did, and yeah, I don't like what the Giants did right now. Quick question for the chat here, then I'll go back to doing the American League West grades. Anthony asks again, are you surprised the Marlins, even despite his injury, didn't trade Jesus Luzardo during the deadline because a lot of teams were willing to give up pitch prospects despite the injury? I'm surprised they didn't consider it, but I think also you have the possibility to trade him in the offseason as well. Maybe the Marlins want to try to compete rather quickly and get him back from injury. I mean, you can have a rotation then of Alcantara, Garrett, Luzardo as your top three rather quickly. Yuri Perez whenever he comes back as well. That's a pretty great top four. So I think there are a lot of factors to decide, and I think the Marlins really wanted to fully hold off till the offseason when they have more time to decide what they wanted to do and what their course of action would be. So going into the American League West here now, we'll be going over these 5 teams. First off, Astros, B-. They need to add a starting pitcher. That they did in Kikuchi. Ferguson is a fine addition to their pen. I don't like the price they give up for Kikuchi. I understand it was an insane market, but still, giving up that price just seems absolutely insane, even though you needed a starting pitcher. So, yeah, I like the Kikuchi move. It's just you gave up such an insane price that I do have to dock you from the B to go to a B+. So, yeah, that's really it. Next, we have the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, who get a C-. I really like the prospects you got back for Carlos Estevez, which is the reason why this grade isn't an F. But why are you not trading Kevin Pillar? Why are you not trading Brandon Jury? Why are you not trading these expiring veterans who have no use to you for your future? I just don't understand why the Angels wouldn't trade these rentals. Also, I don't understand why you didn't trade Tyler Anderson. in this kind of market with, well, when every single team needs pitching. He's never going to have a year like this again. I don't understand why you didn't shop him. Luis Rengifo as well. I don't know why you didn't shop him more. So just a lot of question marks about the Angels deadline that are not answered. But I love the Estevez package. That's why you move up from a D or an F to a C minus, just because of how good I thought that package was. A's, D. Didn't trade Brent Rooker. Didn't trade Mason Miller. Didn't trade J.J. Bleday. Didn't trade any of these guys. I just don't know why they didn't do that. You're not going to be competitive with these guys whenever they're on the roster. You're going to have to trade them. So just does not make a lot of sense to me. I don't like what they did here. And I think that they should have really gone about this a different way. And that's why I do have them as a D here. I think that, again, they should have traded more people, and they just simply didn't. I like what they got back for Urseg and Blackburn. That's that's the only reason really why they're an F, but they're still a D. Mariners, B+. Really like what they did. Yimi Garcia is a fantastic high leverage reliever. Randy Arozarena is, of course, the big star bat you were looking for. Obviously, he isn't having the best season this year, but still has a ton of pedigree as a great player in this league. Justin Turner is a fantastic veteran addition bat. And yeah, I really like what they did. They're not at an A because I would have liked them to acquire one more bat. That's the only reason why they're not higher. But again, I like what they did. Get a B+. Finally, the defending world champion Texas Rangers here. C+. You acquired Andrew Chafin, traded away Michael Lorenzen. That's kind of it. You didn't really need to do much else after that. You need to just get everyone healthy, and that's kind of it. So there weren't really any moves for you to do. Chafin is a nice bullpen addition. Maybe could have gotten one or two more guys, and that's kind of it. But again, there wasn't much for the Rangers to do just because of how many people are injured right now. You really couldn't do anything else. So, yeah, that is my trade deadline grades here for the West. I'm going to go over all the deadline grades here now just to recap in case you didn't watch the other videos, but please do. I think they're pretty good. So we have the Yankees, B-, Orioles, B, Red Sox, B, Rays, B+, Blue Jays, B, Mets, B+, Braves, C-, Marlins, A+, Phillies, C+, Nationals, B, White Sox, C, Guardians, B, Tigers, C, Royals, B, Twins, D, Cardinals, A, Cubs, A-, Reds, C+, Brewers, B-, Pirates, C+, Diamondbacks, B+, Rockies, F, Dodgers, A, Padres, C-, Giants, F, Astros, B-, Angels, C-, A's, D, Mariners, B+, and of course the Rangers, C+. So yeah, that is my third segment here, going over the West trade deadline grades, and then of course at the end, talking about all the trade deadline grades I went over. So that was all my grades. Please watch all these videos and let me know what you think in the chat, comments, wherever. Let me know. Moving into our fourth segment here, which is going to be talking about the National League post-deadline playoff predictions, who I have as the 6 seeds in the playoffs, and also what I think will happen after that. I'll be explaining my reasoning for it as well. So yeah, we'll be going over that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our fourth segment, which is going to be talking about some National League playoff predictions post the deadline. A lot of teams made moves that affects their playoff likelihood. I'll be giving who I think will be the 6 teams in the playoffs, and then going over what I think happens in these hypothetical series as well. So yeah, before we do that though, again, please like and follow the show, GSMCpodcast.net. You get the deal. Get a lot of questions from viewers. Yeah, all that good stuff. So let's get back into the show for today. All right, so first off, again, National League post-deadline playoff predictions. Let's get into it. So, at the first seed for the National League playoff predictions I have here post this trade deadline, I'm going to be having, of course, the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't think it's very likely that the Phillies get moved off of their first place seed for this year. They've been the best team in the NL really all year, have been absolutely fantastic, and I really, really have liked what they I really like what they did at the deadline as well, adding Estevez. Again, I think they could have done more, but still a fantastic team. I think at this point it's very unlikely they will be moved off the first seed for the playoffs. Second seed, I of course have the Dodgers. No shocks here. Dodgers are one of the best teams in all baseball. It's going to be either them or the Phillies for the 1 and 2 seed. And yeah, just an absolutely fantastic season for them. I love what they did at the deadline, adding Jack Flaherty, Tommy Edman, Ahmed Rosario, Kevin Kiermaier, all that good stuff. All the players they added, really liked it. So I do have the Dodgers here at the 2 seed. The 3 seed I have, which is of course going to be the NL Central winner, I have the Brewers. I think no team is going to catch up with the Brewers. I think the Pirates, if any team, have the best chance. But I think the Brewers have just are so ahead of everyone else in the Central right now that I really don't think it's possible for another team to catch them up. Their offense could just fully crumble with the loss of Christian Yelich. I get that, but I just think right now that they are so far ahead of everyone else in the NL Central that I think they're going to win this. I honestly maybe think that Cardinals and Pirates are better teams on paper, but the Brewers have had a fantastic first half. Have had a lot of breakout players on offense, so props to them for being in this position. Now it gets fun. Now it's in the wild card. There's a lot of teams I consider for these 3 wild card spots. I want to let you know them right away. We have the Pirates, we have the Mets, the Braves, the Cardinals, the Padres, the Diamondbacks. Those are the 6 teams I genuinely considered for these 3 wild card spots. But in the end, these are the 3 teams that I think will have things most go their way, did most of the deadline to help their cases, and where I think they will finish. So, 4th seed, probably going to be a little controversial. People are going to say I'm biased. People are not going to agree with it, but this is what I genuinely think happens. I think the 4th seed, the top wild card seed, is going to be the New York Mets. And what a turnaround this would be, being like 15 games out from first place and then making the first wild card spot. I think that, simply put, the Mets are just on fire and have been for a little while. You could argue they've been the best NL team since really the start of May or June. Really added a lot to their bullpen at the deadline, which has been their biggest flaw this entire year. Added a nice lefty bat off the bench in Jesse Winker, who can also fill in while Charlie Marte is still hurt. I love what they did at the deadline. I think they have a fantastic team. I think the Braves pitching eventually is going to stop pitching as well as it has, and I think with how close the Mets are in that division, only a game and a half behind, I think that eventually they are going to pass the Braves and are going to become the first wild card seed for this year. Now at 5, I have the Braves, so it's not exactly like I'm just saying the Braves are going to stink and they suck. I just think that the Mets eventually are going to pass them and are going to stay in the first wild card seed. I think that the Braves are going to have to make the playoffs with how well they've done this year and how big of a lead they are above everyone else right now. So I do have the Braves at the 5 seed, but I do think that eventually their division rival Mets do catch up with them and take over that first wild card seed, which it seemed like the Braves have had locks on for a little while now. Finally, at number 6, this is a really tough decision. I was with 4 teams here. I was with the Pirates, Diamondbacks, Marlins, and Padres. It was a really tough decision, but in the end, I'm sticking with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks, with all the pitching help they're getting back, the fact that their offense looked much better in the second half, Corbin Carroll might be finally turning the page and being back to Rookie of the Year Corbin Carroll. The pitching they're getting back down the stretch is unparalleled. And yeah, just an absolutely fantastic team I think they have here. An MVP candidate, Ketel Marte. I love the team, and I was very close to putting the Padres, the Cardinals in this position. I like what those 2 teams at the deadline as well, but man, I think the Diamondbacks are going to get this seed because of the pitching getting back. So, let's go back now to this hypothetical playoffs. In the first round, it would have the 3-seeded Brewers versus the 6-seeded Diamondbacks. I would have the Diamondbacks winning the series easy. I think they're the better team than the Brewers as well. And also, with the pitching rotation they could potentially have in the playoffs, I think it would just be absolutely insane to face them. Brewers, their rotation is really the biggest down part of their team right now. The Diamondbacks will be able to throw out to you Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Jordan Montgomery, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt. Just the pitching depth they would have, especially for a 3-game series as well, I do think they would end up winning this and beating the Brewers again. Exact same matchup of last year. Next, we would have the 4-seeded Mets versus the 5-seeded Braves. I have the Mets winning this series. I think these 2 teams are super even right now, and I do think that in the end it would just be who gets home field advantage, and that's the Mets do have here. So very close. I think we'll probably go to 3 games, but the Mets have the possibility of getting Senga back as well. Sean Manaea and Jose Quintana have been revelations lately for this rotation. And the Braves rotation at some point is going to regress. It's just got to happen. So I do have the Mets winning here. Going to the division series now, you have the 2-seeded Dodgers versus the 6-seeded Diamondbacks. This is where the Diamondbacks' run comes to an end. They will not be repeating as National League pennant winners. I just think in a 5-game series with the Dodgers pitching all fully rested up and the Diamondbacks already having to use some of their great pitchers, the Dodgers can throw at you Tyler Glasnow, Jack Flaherty, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler if they need to. Bobby Miller as well if he gets better. So I think the Dodgers' big problems the last few years have been their pitching. And now with the additions they made in the offseason, now at the trade deadline, Tyler Glasnow, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, re-signing Kershaw, getting Jack Flaherty, I think they're overcoming that, and I think this would be the year for them to finally get back to the championship series, which they've so needed. Then we would have the 1-seeded Phillies versus the 4-seeded Mets. I'm not this biased. Phillies would obviously win. Fully rested pitching staff of Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez would be absolutely hard for the Mets. Would be so hard for the Mets to beat, and I do think that they would end up winning this. So kind of a boring championship series here with the 1-seeded Phillies versus 2-seeded Diamondback. 1-seeded Phillies versus 2-seeded Dodgers, but just how I think it's going to end up happening. I do have the Phillies winning this hypothetical series and moving on to the World Series. I just think, again, this rotation is too hard, too much to deal with. The lineup is also insane, just so many great players after another. I think we'll be really close. I think we'll probably go to 7. I think it'll be a fantastic series, but I think in the end the Phillies would win. They get Game 7 in Philadelphia as well, being the first seed, and I think it's really hard to win a Game 7 in Philadelphia. Diamondbacks just did it, yeah, but I don't know if that'll happen again. With the pitching they have, you could throw everyone out at Game 7 because you're not really resting anyone. So, I think it'll be really hard for them to win. So, that is my National League post-deadline playoff predictions. Let me know your thoughts in the comment, chat, all that as well. So, that is it for our 4th segment here. We'll be moving into our 5th and final segment, which is going to be talking about the American League and my post-deadline playoff predictions for this league. You just saw what I did with the National League, predicting all 6 seeds, and then going over the playoff bracket as well. So, we will be going over that for the American League, and we'll see you after the break. So, thanks, and bye. And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our 5th and final segment for today. We're just going to be talking about my American League post-deadline playoff predictions. Of course, a lot of teams made moves at the trade deadline, which would affect their playoff status, whether for good or for bad. And I wanted to go over what I think in the end will end up being the American League playoff predictions, the American League playoff picture, top 6 seeds, who wins and who goes to the World Series, all that kind of stuff. So, let's get into it. Starting off for the first seed, I am going to be having the Baltimore Orioles. It was, for me, obviously going to be either the Orioles or the Yankees, who would win the AL East. And I do think, in the end, the Orioles will win it. I just think the Orioles right now have a better team. The pitching reinforcement they added as well in Trevor Rogers and Zach Eflin should also be able to really help you out. So, I like what the Orioles did at the deadline a lot. I think they should have added another high-leverage reliever, but that's something you could deal with in the playoffs. So, overall, I do have the Orioles as the number 1 seed. Number 2 seed here, I do have the Houston Astros. I think in the end, the Astros are going to be winning this American League West and taking their rightful place back up there. I like the pitching addition they made in Kikuchi, even though there was a huge price to pay for it. He is a great pitcher, so you added him, so that's all you're really going to do, right? That's all you could do. And you got a great player regardless of the package. And, you have a very good rotation now once everyone comes back. You'll have Justin Verlander, you have Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown as well, Kikuchi in there. So I like this Astros team a lot. I do think they end up winning this American League West, and that's where I have them here. Number 3 seed, I was going back and forth with who I think would win the AL Central, of course, who would be the 3 seed. And that is the reason why. But in the end, I did decide to go with the Cleveland Guardians. Now, last time I went with the Minnesota Twins, actually, as my prediction to win the AL Central. But I think with what the Guardians did at the deadline, adding Lane Thomas, who adds a ton of depth and length to your lineup, adding Alex Cobb, who's a really nice starting pitcher, to add in relatively soon to this rotation, and with the Twins doing nothing, I think that the Guardians have the upper hand here. Also, they have, I think, already a 6-game lead on the AL Central, so I think it's going to be very hard for the Twins to be able to knock that off with the non-existent trade deadline acquisitions they made. So I do have the Guardians as my 3 seed here, winning the American League Central. Now, the wild card was very hard. Of course, we know who the 4 seed is going to be. Let's just get that out of the way. It's going to be the Yankees. If they weren't the 1 seed, they would be the 4 seed. If the Orioles weren't the 1 seed, they would be the 4 seed. That's how this playoff format works. That's how it would have done it. And yeah, fantastic team. Love the Jazz Chisholm addition. And yeah, that's it. But going now to the more interesting playoff seeds, I should say. We know what 1 and 4 are going to be. Even now, 5 and 6. So there were a lot of teams I was considering for this 5 and 6 spot. So I was considering, of course, the Mariners. I was considering the Red Sox, the Royals. I was considering also the Rays as well, even with them selling, and the Rangers. But in the end, I did end up going with, for the 5 seed, the Seattle Mariners. They needed hitting. They figured that out at the deadline. They got Rainier Rosarena, really nice star bat they were looking for. Justin Turner is just a great, solid veteran bat they'd love to add to their team, and did. After that, Yami Garcia is really going to help out that bullpen. And man, is that starting rotation deadly. I mean, you have Emerson Hancock, you got Brian Wu, you got Logan Gilbert, you got Luis Castillo. It's just absolutely incredible what they have built there in that Seattle rotation. George Kirby as well. I always forget him when mentioning the Mariners for some reason, but fantastic, fantastic pitcher. So I think their pitching staff is ultimately going to get them into the playoffs. Their hitting is going to be good enough, and they're going to get here. For the 6th seed, it was really hard, but I did end up going with the Kansas City Royals. Kind of like the Mariners, I think in the end, their pitching staff is just going to will them into the playoffs. Lugo, Waka, Singer, and Reagans, of course, is a fantastic top 4 of that rotation. Mainly focusing on Reagans and Lugo. That's an incredible ace tandem at the top there. I think in the end, their lineup is very good with Bobby Witt Jr. potentially having an MVP season. The other guys as well that are in the lineup that are very good, like Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, Michael Garcia. I like the addition of Paul DeJong adding to your second base depth. So I think in the end, again, their hitting is going to be good enough, and their pitching is just going to will them into these playoffs. And that's why I do have them as the 6th seed here over some other teams that I was debating, like the Rangers, the Rays, and mainly the Red Sox as well. So going to the wild card series here now, we have the 3-seeded Guardians versus the 6-seeded Royals. For me, no question, I think the Royals win this series. I understand that they're the 6th seed, but the Royals have such a fantastic ace tandem at the top of that rotation that I think it would be shut down as long as the Royals really do end up scoring 2 or 3 runs, which you can do more of with that offense and with the Guardians pitching staff. I think that the Royals would absolutely shut them down. This 3-game wildcard series is made for a team like the Royals, who have such a great ace tandem in Lugo and Reagans. Waka is also an option as well to come out of the bullpen or start at Game 3. Michael Lorenzen can add some depth out of the bullpen, as can Brady Singer. So, yeah, I think the Royals would 100% win this wildcard series. They're just built for that kind of thing, and I think the Guardians' pitching deficiencies will eventually come back to bite them. Next, we have the 4-seeded Yankees versus the 5-seeded Mariners. It was really tough because the Mariners have a fantastic rotation, and I just did this with the Yankees, but overall, I think that the Yankees would win simply because of experience. I think that going to the Bronx, it will be really hard to shut out the Yankees in there, even with the pitching they had. I really, really wanted to pick the Mariners for this, but I did end up going with the Yankees because of just their fantastic lineup. The rotation's really good as well. I mean, you have Garrett Cole starting Game 1, and as much as he hasn't been the Garrett Cole you expect this year, he still is Garrett Cole. Still is going to have a fantastic season. So, yeah, I do have the Yankees here as my winning this wildcard game over the Mariners. It was a really tough decision because of how good the Mariners rotation is, because this is just a 3-game series. But I think just with the Yankees having the advantage of being in the Bronx, in the Boogie Down, I think that they would end up winning this series. And yeah. So going to the division series here now, we have the 1-seeded Orioles versus the 4-seeded Yankees. This is what everyone's waiting for. The American League East matchup, 5-game series. Super exciting. I think the Orioles would win it. I think this is the Orioles' year. They're going to make the World Series. It's going to be this year. Fully rested starting pitching. You get to throw Corbin Burns at them, Grace Rodriguez, Zach Eflin, Trevor Rogers, Cade Povich. Like, you could just throw so many great arms at them. You have Yankees rotation would also be tired, of course, coming off of that 3-game series. You'd already have to use Garrett Cole. Probably couldn't start till Game 2 or 3, depending on how you win the wildcard series. But you have that. You have an elite lineup with Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, of course, Jordan Westbrook, who I think should be back relatively soon. Just an incredible, incredible team. Colton Cowser as well, I'm forgetting. Just the amount of fantastic young bats this Orioles team has is incredible. Adding in Eflin and Rogers to give more length and depth to your rotation was a great, great job, and I think the Orioles would end up winning this. Next, we have the 2-seeded Astros versus the 6-seeded Royals. I was very close to picking the Royals for this, but I think with a fully rested Astros pitching staff, I think they would end up winning this. You get to throw Framber Valdez at them, Justin Verlander, Yusei Kikuchi, Hunter Brown, all these great pitchers. And as much as the Royals have great pitching as well, I think in the end, because of the experience they lack and because of the Astros pitching being fully rested, I think they would end up winning this. So, again, another pretty boring division series. You have, again, championship series, I mean. You have, again, like I predicted for the NL, the 1 and 2 seeds facing off against each other. Sorry. I would have the Orioles winning the series against the Astros in 7. I think this is the Orioles' year. I think the vibes have gone right the entire year, and I think they would end up winning this. It would be a fantastic World Series between the Phillies and the Orioles. Both teams are within very close proximity of each other. I believe they're only an hour and a half away. Probably would be a lot more with the Philly and Baltimore traffic, but hey. So it would be an amazing World Series to watch. 2 great teams that are going to be around for a long, long time, and I would have a fantastic time watching it. I would be rooting for the Orioles in my life because as a Mets fan, I do not want to see the Phillies winning the World Series. So if this hypothetical World Series would come to happen, which I think a lot of people are expecting it to happen as well, I would probably go with the Phillies in 7. I just think in the end, the experience of them would be too much for the Orioles to handle. And I think the home field advantage at Citizens Bank Park is just absolutely incredible. So that is my 5th and final segment here, going over my American League post-deadline playoff predictions. And that is it for the show today, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe to the notification bell to know that you get notified when I upload, when all the other great content creators on the channel do. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. I'm your host, Sam Menzi. We'll be back tomorrow with my Friday Power Rankings, and we'll be going over all that. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, guys, and bye. See you then.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn.